My name is Jeff Smith. We started this garden with a friend called Tavis, who's Canadian, in 2007, 2008, the winter when this was a fairly wild area, and we've gradually cleared it up, and it still has a few rough edges, but we're making some progress.
Yeah, you know, when I started the garden, there were trees all around here, and there was one little open area right here. And I started right in this spot. And it was just small. It was only about this big. And I had the little path. I lived in that house up there, and you can see the steps over there. So yeah, it was quite convenient for me. And it just expanded and expanded. I invited neighbors over for a meeting to discuss the idea of sharing it and, you know, making it more of a communal thing, and people liked the idea. So yeah, we very quickly expanded, and my goodness, it's huge compared to what it was when it started. As you can see, it was a very small garden in the beginning.
We grow flowers in the front of the garden. Some of them are fairly temporary, and there are some bushes as well, like this yellow alamander, which is growing over here. This is a white hibiscus shrub, and it's covered with a passion fruit vine, and here you can see one of the passion flowers. And in the back of the garden we have individual plots where members grow vegetables, usually in the winter, because the summer is too hot and too humid for most vegetables to grow. Around the sides we have an area planted with flowers. These are hippeastrum lilies. You can see a lot of them growing on the bank there, and they should put on a good display in April. In the early years we were very much preoccupied with a land dispute, and this was eventually sorted out in the court, and we now lease the land, and we haven't had any problems for the last few years.
So hello, I'm Skye. I started in the garden in November 2007. Actually, we had our first meeting in the house, which is behind, where we all came together and we discussed the idea of having a community garden in this area here. Well, it progressed very, very quickly, a small group of us. I was more interested in doing the garden at the front, as opposed to growing vegetables. I enjoyed more about the social aspect of the garden, so I enjoyed getting together the community, having potlucks, which we did very often at the beginning of the year. Like on a Sunday we used to meet and all come down to the garden, bring our own little dishes, and just had a lovely community event. I think the garden is perfect for just coming, sitting, watching the butterflies, tadpoles. There's a lot of wildlife, snakes sometimes, but yeah, it's a beautiful place to sit and meditate, and it's lovely. As I live very nearby, I actually see so many people appreciating this lovely space.
Hi, my name's Dennis, and I too have been part of the garden since it started back in 2007.
So you've heard already that the garden has increased in size since it started, which is true. But In the early days, it wasn't a straightforward progression. It was more a case of 2 steps forward and 1 step back. I think we're out of that routine now, but back then,
If we look at the late months, 2007, early months of 2008, and then we go forward to the end of the summer, September 2008, you can see the front garden is back to as it was before we started. This also works the other way around, of course. If you look at this picture from September, the end of the summer 2009, it's a real mess. But only 2 months later, all those 2 steps forward have transformed it again. There were times during the history of the garden when it looked really neat and tidy. But unfortunately, nature is somewhat relentless in her pursuit of growth. For people on the outside passing the garden, I guess this is what it might have looked like over the years.
Hello, my name is Carol and I live in Tai Peng, and I have been a member of this community garden since it first started, which I think was in November 2007, so many years now. And I joined it as we all got started and a group of us got together and talked about how we could just have a space for growing. At that point, we're thinking about flowers and maybe some vegetables. I didn't know anything about gardening, but it sounded like a very good idea to get involved, so I did. And the other thing that's really fun is not just growing my own seeds, but with us sharing amongst the community as well. So I'll grow seedlings, I share it with someone else grows them, they share them with us. And it's a great way to grow things. And yeah, it's a lot of fun to get that stuff grow up and see it.
My name is Jane, and I joined the garden shortly after it established in November 2007. So I think I must have been, in the springtime 2008. And during those days, those early days, we had a lot more families joining us. We had kids running around. My 2 kids themselves were pretty young at the time, and they used to go around carrying like little buckets of water and just basically watering the plants. And it was actually fabulous. It was great to have that kind of space to start that growing and that gardening kind of journey. Even though Lamma is incredibly green and things anyway, I think it was the first time we actually had a decent amount of space to grow our own kind of vegetables and flowers and things. And I was really hoping to get the kids interested in gardening as well.
My name is Marilyn. My husband and I have been in the garden right from the beginning, about 14 years now. And we all grow our own things. We share though, but like things like carrots, vegetables, okra. So it's all very productive and very sociable, and it's very nice. And at the beginning, people had plots, but it was not arranged as it is today, so nicely marked and with paths in middle of patches and plots. We built some paths with gravel, which we imported, and even a bit of cement to make some steps, and now it's more manageable.
Okay, so these stones we put down, we think it was about 10 years ago. Janice and Marilyn and myself, we got these flagstones that were being dumped from some project, and we rescued them and put these down. They've made a very good path for the past 10 years.
In the garden, everybody takes care of their own plot, but we sometimes meet in order to weed or to build a fence around the garden.
It's really heavy, isn't it? It's great stuff.
We're just waiting to see what kind of plant.
I think what we can do is basically find something.
That's what a community garden should be, I suppose, and we all put in a bit of work to do our bit.
Yeah, hello everybody. Well, I'm Chris, member of this wonderful garden that we started about 14 years ago, I think, something like that. It's still going strong. We've got the water on now, we've got electricity back on and stuff like that, so it's an up and running community garden, giving lots of fun to everybody. And everyone enjoys it and enjoys coming in to look at all the butterflies and what have you. So yeah, it's great. Well, this is Tai Peng Man, we call him, and he's the inspiration from the farmers that used to be in the fields when we used to have fields in the village. And they would walk into a pond like this with their buckets on their shoulders, pull up the water, and then walk in between the rows of vegetables to water their crop. So this is a sort of dedication to them, because none of these guys left anymore. Well, this is Rose. She's the flower seller, and she has her own bicycle. And I made this out of an old bike, and her hair is bicycle chains. This is water pipe. Her hands are garden forks. So it's all recycled stuff, and we enjoy putting new flowers in every now and then, new plants. Well, some years ago we built this wonderful pergola, but it's taken a battering with various typhoons and storms and rain. But it's still standing, but we built that there to shelter in. It was used at first, and but then we tend to sit on tables outside now. But the other ongoing battle is keeping the pigs out of the garden, because the pigs like certain things in the garden, but not everything. And between us all, we've built the fence over the years. We had a big group clear out a few months ago and cleared all the brush back and put proper fencing in. Yes, it's worked very well. I think we're a pig-proof garden now. Not snake-proof, of course, though, but...
I'm Lorraine. I have been in Hong Kong for 15 years now, and on Lamma for 4 only. And we came to Lamma and we discovered this place very quickly. Asked if there were plots, and there was one. And so I started on half the size of this to start with, just to prove that I was interested in the gardening experiment here. And so I planted very tight. So my first introduction to gardening was to plant tight and see how much I could grow on a very small surface. And very quickly you garden and you realize things, that some things don't work, some things are attacked, and so I very, very fast got into permaculture, which is a bit of a buzzword, but it makes you more aware about the interaction between the different elements of the environment, including people, including the community. The idea behind this compost is to use the simplest way in an aerobic manner, which means that the air is going through the compost and is helping the fermentation. So you only see a very thin amount of compost. Okay, you have to think of it as having been full since January. So we are talking about a bit like 6 months, 6 or 7 months of compost work. So I was talking earlier about learning about composting. This is a supremely good compost. You know that when you smell it and when you look into it, you see all of these little things crawling. It's also not too wet, not too dry. It's in its ideal stage at the moment. And it's like gold, actually. You don't need a lot so although there's only that layer, I will probably get several buckets here and enough for the plots. And I would feed my plots twice a year with that. And I asked if I could do a herb garden on this side, because herbs are first easy to grow and then they're loved by insects and particularly bees when they flower. And we have a beehive, so we are also more conscious about planting flowers that bees like, and aromatic plants are loved by bees. So we again collected organic matter from all around the garden, piled it. The rain just brought it down. So we started that in April or March 2020, and a year later we have this. That's really quite satisfying.
People grow rocket, lettuce, radishes, carrots, tomatoes.
I've got aubergines growing, lemongrass growing, and a Japanese pumpkin that I'm trying for the first time actually.
Carrots, spinach, coriander, some lettuce sometimes, and then things like basil. Some beans, the big long snake beans, and also growing eggplant and okra.
Lemongrass, betel, lavender, rosemary, 2 kinds of thyme, Thai basil, dill, some mint, mugwort, saffron, chilies, oregano,
And even coffee.
That kind of thing.
One of the things that I think has been fantastic about being in the garden, of course, is the people we meet. It's not just about the vegetables that we grow, it's also the people we meet, and having an opportunity to interact. We've certainly developed great friendships over the years, of course, with Dennis and Marilyn and many others in the garden. So that's been a wonderful part of it. And we've had some great times with potluck lunches as well, where we all get together and bring a dish and sit around in our garden and have a potluck lunch and spend a Sunday afternoon chatting. That's been a wonderful part of it. And yeah, I think that's probably what keeps me here even more than the vegetables.
For me, a community garden is not just about producing vegetables, which is great. I mean, it's wonderful to grow your own food. I think that's really important. But honestly, I think there are many more benefits than that of a community garden. The fact that it brings people together and builds relationships among people in the community, I think is an even greater benefit of a community garden. And if you ask me, I wish there should be community gardens all over Hong Kong. We should have them in every community.